Hey, Puppy Trades! I wanted to do a video analysis update on Bitcoin. Before we get into Bitcoin and the possibility of retiring off Bitcoin and accumulating infinite Bitcoin, we need to talk about the silver market because, as you guys know, I am very interested in religion, and I'm very interested in the intersection between religion and finance. I have been since I was a child, and I read on the dollar bill, "In God We Trust," and I was told we lived in a non theocracy. I've been very interested in the intersection between religion and finance ever since I found out, in the Fed's own words, the dollar is backed by faith. So let's look at an interesting number. The silver lease rate has exploded to 33. So that's the 1 month lease rate annualized from the CME. So what this essentially means is, if a large dealer lent out their silver, they would get a 33% annualized return. Now, you don't need to be a finance major to know that's pretty damn good. A 33% annualized return for lending my silver, thinking I'm going to get it back, is a pretty damn good return. It's almost 3 times higher than the return of the stock market annualized. So why would anyone take the risk of the S&P 500 when they could lend their silver and get an annualized return of 33%, triple the S&P 500's annualized return? Why would someone do that? The only reason that this could happen, we go from a lease rate of 5 to a lease rate of 33, is if the people lending their silver started to get really worried that they weren't going to get paid back. Very similar to how a bond has a higher interest if it's less likely that the lender will get all their money back. So essentially, the silver market is looking for defaults. The silver market is worrying about defaults at a rate that is 6 or 7 times higher than it was a couple months ago. I mean, we see a vertical line in silver lease rates. I think that's pretty interesting. It made it all the way up to 35. This guy has an interesting chart. He says if you uh, adjust the silver price for the money supply, he says we're 58% below the 2011 peak and 90% below the 1980s one, adjusting for the money supply. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. It looks like that 1980 peak, when adjusted for money supply, is over $500 for an ounce of silver. So let's look at what some silver bulls are saying. We're starting to, and this is all going to tie into Bitcoin. And really, this could be platinum too. It could probably be palladium in the future. But let's look at some tweets about silver from the silver community. Gold is at 4,200 and silver is at 52, both in record territory. Don't sell, buy and hold for the next currency. The US currency has failed 3 times in US history. It's plausible that it could happen again. If you want to own assets in the next currency, you want to own assets that will have value in the next currency. Just my opinion. So he's saying basically what we should do is buy silver physically, hold it, and then when the dollar collapses, we're going to walk outside with our silver and we're going to say, hey, whether it's XRP, whether it's Stellar Lumens, whether it's Bitcoin, we know gold and silver and platinum and palladium are going to be some value in that scenario. So let's just look at this crazy scenario where silver goes on a runaway train. We see silver is already at an all-time high. But what FinTwit is kind of missing is that the silver miners are rampantly playing catch up. They're not even anywhere close to all-time highs. And if we look at the Elliott wave of First Majestic Silver, wave 1, ABC wave 2, wave 1, wave 2, wave 1, ABC wave 2, First Majestic Silver is rounding out the right side of this base. The minimum target, the minimum is 23.91. What's really going to happen is AG is going to go to the lower bound of this pitchfork, then AG is going to go to the median of this pitchfork. If wave 4 retests the wave 1 high, and wave 5 is the length of wave 1 placed at the wave 4 low, AG is going all the way to 43. It's currently at 14. This company mines silver. This isn't AI. This isn't, some crazy speculative growth play. This company mines silver, and it is about to triple. It's about to roughly triple, at least. Just for waves 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in blue, those 5 waves in wave 3 in black, before wave 4 and 5 ends wave 3 in red, before waves 4 and 5 ends wave 3, 4, and 5 on all the degrees. That's a fancy way of saying we have a lot of subdividing to do. And if we really want to get to the super long-term price target for First Majestic Silver, we take the length of wave 1, we place it at the wave 1 high. It gives us 52. What is the spot price of silver? This is a runaway train, by the way. This is a runaway train up the right side of the base. Let's look at gold. A lot of people, this is a B2 Gold Corp. Again, it's one where you look at gold, you hope it's topped. You hope that the dollar is gonna recover and our purchasing power is going to be there. But we look right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wave 1, wave 2, wave 1, ABC, wave 2 for B2 Gold, and this is going vertical. This is going up to 7.58 before a shallow wave 4 and a wave 5 higher. If wave 4 retests the wave 1 high, and wave 5 is the length of wave 1 placed at the wave 4 low, B2 Gold is going to 13. So again, no signs of gold stopping, no signs of silver stopping. If you really look at the miners, let's go back to some of these tweets real quick. Some of these tweets are a little interesting. Let's look at this one. So, Pope Leo the 14th was gifted a white horse named Proton. This guy said Proton means first. The white horse is the first horse of the 4 horsemen. Many biblical scholars and Christians in general believe that the 7 years tribulation starts with a peace deal and a white horse. Some interesting observations about the book of Revelation. Let's look at this one. This is kind of fitting in. Another Bible verse is responded to this. And this guy's getting a little religious. This is interesting. Know this, if you buy and hold metals, the new system will require your metals to be tokenized, which means you will not be able to use them as money at all unless you are fully integrated into the new system. In other words, metals will be useless unless you have taken the mark. And attempting to function outside of their system, including all forms of trade and barter, will be illegal and will carry a hefty penalty, imprisonment, or worse. So, this guy is talking about the mark of the beast. He says, if you plan on rejecting, and this is about the precious metals. So this is a wide community of people in the precious metal community that are pointing out various things about the silver market that we've worried about for a long time. And what this guy is saying is that Ezekiel 7:9 says, in the end times, they shall cast their silver in the streets and gold shall be removed. This guy commented, no doubt, the day is fast approaching. The day is fast approaching. Let's look at some more facts about silver. So we got this 35% lease rate for silver. That's annualized. And we look at what's going on in China. This is interesting. Everyone's staring at the spot price, pretending silver's $50 an ounce. But step into the real world, China's top bullion marketplace is now posting $128 for an ounce of physical silver. That's 2.5 times the current price of silver in America. The global silver shortage isn't coming. It's already here. Perth Mint has halted all silver product sales. India's dealers have vanished or defaulted on shipments. Amazon sellers are taking money and not delivering metal. Even the Royal Canadian Mint and TD Bank show out of stock on nearly every bar. This isn't paper disconnect. It's a total breakdown in physical supply. So what people are essentially saying is that there's a paper to silver ratio. There's all the silver in the world, and there's all the silver that's an IOU on paper. And if everyone who was entitled to silver, whether it was from futures markets or ETFs or wherever, if everyone basically said, we want our silver that the paper says you owe us, we have a current silver to paper to silver ratio of 1 to about 359. So, if everyone right now demanded their silver based on these paper contracts, if everyone who was entitled to silver via paper demanded silver, only 1 out of every 359 people would actually get their silver. And that's what's going on here, is people starting to figure out. Meanwhile, the West is still obsessed with spot prices that no longer mean anything. Futures, ETFs, and paper silver are detached from IOUs. So this is really important for the Bitcoin crowd to understand, especially if you're thinking about investing in Bitcoin through an ETF, is that just in the same sense that these silver bulls are physically holding silver and waiting for the next currency, eventually, if you plan on holding and retiring off Bitcoin, eventually you're going to have to transfer out of IBIT, you're going to have to transfer out of the ETFs, and you're going to have to go on the actual blockchain. Not your keys, not your crypto. We're just going to go real fast through some charts and just look at like what could be going on. This dollar devaluation. Moo, agriculture. 1, 2, 1, 2. Wave 3 of wave 3 from the 61.8% retracement takes Moo to 125. Agriculture before a shallow wave 4 and a wave 5 higher. If wave 4 retests the wave 1 high and wave 5 is the length of wave 1 placed at the wave 4 low, Moo is going into the 170s. COP, ConocoPhillips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wave 1, ABC wave 2. I believe that 79.88 is going to hold, and COP is going to go the length of wave 1, place at the wave 2 low, all the way to 200. This is an oil play before a shallow wave 4 and a wave 5 higher. If wave 4 retests the wave 1 high, and wave 5 is the length of wave 1, placed at the wave 4 low, COP can go all the way up to 256. That's an oil play tripling. So when people talk about, you see what's happened with uranium and this AI boom, I don't see why everyone isn't staring at oil right now Silver's exploded. Gold's exploded. Everything has exploded except for oil and soft commodities, the agriculture commodities. Here's sugar, just to show what's going to happen to food prices, what's going to happen to gas prices. This isn't just going to be uranium. It's not just going to be people who collect rocks that are affected by inflation. We're about to get into the part that really hurts the middle class. This is really going to be this is going to wipe out a lot of people. And what we're looking at, if we're being honest, is a situation where inflation gets so out of control, people are forced to buy Bitcoin or they're forced to buy a different cryptocurrency. We'll get into that in the presentation. But cane, sugar, entering wave 3 of wave 3, it's going to go dramatically higher. Reasonable price target, take the length of wave 1, place it at the wave 1 low. For waves 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, CANE goes up to 22.38, much more than double the current price of sugar. Let's get into, let's actually finish up the inflation real quick. Palladium, very similar to silver, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wave 1. ABC, wave 2, the length of wave 1 placed at the wave 2 low, says palladium is going on a new all-time high, at least to 298. So what we're looking at is the silver lease rate is up in the 30s. It's exploded up into the 30s, and the price of silver in China is about $120-ish dollars. So we got accounts saying hold your gold and silver for the next currency, and this is an actual plan that people have. There are a real pocket of investors around the world, especially in America, that are investing in physical gold and silver, and they are holding it. And their plan is that the US dollar is going to be cooked. It's going to be cooked, and they're going to usher in a new cryptocurrency. Maybe it's a CBDZ, maybe it's XRP, maybe it's Bitcoin, and they're waiting for the next currency. And I'll tell you from the Elliott Wave perspective, what basically says is they're going to get really rich on paper until that happens. And at what point do you think, when you can't buy any silver, are people going to start realizing, wait a minute, something's kind of wrong here with silver absolutely exploding? Because what I've shown in this video, right now it's silver. What it's about to be is oil is going to join the party, and sugar is going to join the party. It's going to get very inflation-y. And it's going to get beyond like, oh, everything's expensive. People are going to start worrying about the safety of the dollar, especially if cryptocurrencies are rallying during this time. Let's look at Cassava Sciences. This is just one example of 2020 style biotech entering wave 3. I'll explain why I'm touching on this in a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 of wave 3 takes SAVA up into the 150s. It's currently at 4.64. No need to go higher than that. An entire ETF full of these genomic stocks. They want your genome. They want your DNA. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wave 1. ABC, wave 2. It looks like we're entering wave 3 on this long-term time frame. It's going to at least take ARCG up into the 115, 116 range. I've covered Pfizer as well. What was this guy saying? He was saying we're going to have to take the mark to use our silver. We're going to have to take the mark to use our silver because of tokenization being required. So I've gone through all the charts. Now I'm going to get into the Bitcoin presentation. So basically what I tried to do in the first part of this video, and there's really going to be a few parts to this video, just prove to you that hyperinflation is going to happen, and the silver shortage is already happening. And there's a big group of people with some religious leanings that believe that there is going to be a entire currency collapse, and a new currency is going to be introduced. And that's why they're holding their silver and gold. And we know for a fact, that there's about 350 times, 59 times more silver on paper than there is silver in reality. And now we see the spot price of silver in China is 2.5 times the spot price of silver in America, at least on one large silver bullion dealer. I did think that was interesting. We're going to put on the tinfoil hat for a little bit. There's a movie called Looper in 2012 where this guy, he's stashing all of his silver. They all have silver. This is in the 2040s. They've all got silver bars that they're stashing. And this guy says, I think it's interesting that the silver is being priced. It's currently being priced in China 2.5 times the price in America. You look at what this guy says. He says he wants to go to France, and this guy keeps telling him, "I'm from the future. From the future. You should go to China. Take your silver and go to China." I just thought that was a little interesting for a movie that came out in 2012. I remember the Mayan calendar and the movie 2012 about the big earthquakes. Anyway, enter Bitcoin. Because while all this is happening, you have the opportunity to retire off Bitcoin. Yeah, you can retire off Bitcoin. Hallelujah. There's an ETF called BITK that is going to sell 0 DTE covered calls that are out of the money on IBIT, the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. So what you can do is you can blend 50% IBIT with 50% BITK, and what you can essentially do is collect unlimited IBIT, because every dividend you get, you can reinvest into 50% IBIT and then 50% BITK. As Bitcoin goes up, the call premiums go up, more Bitcoin is purchased, Bitcoin goes down, the premiums are used to dollar cost average into the dip, during the dip, before what many people believe is the inevitable new high. So there's kind of good news for Bitcoin bulls, but there's something they need to understand. The first thing they need to understand is that their thesis that the US dollar is effed and we're going to see hyperinflation is accurate. It's accurate. The dollar is going to die, and I honestly think this 10% dollar decline year, this is going to continue, and it's probably going to get much exponentially worse. So the good news for Bitcoin bulls is the required reserve ratio is 0%. We are seeing gold, silver, uranium. Next, we're going to see oil and sugar and real estate and palladium explode. So the good news for Bitcoin bulls is that they know there's going to be inflation. So based on that logic, when we get into the Bitcoin bull thesis, they know there's going to be inflation. So it's a pretty easy trade, especially with interest rates going down. So interest rates are going down. The required reserves ratio is 0. First Majestic Silver is about to triple. B2 Gold's going to go up 2.5 times its current value. Agriculture and sugar are about to explode. And so this all this inflationary stuff is very good for Bitcoin. We're going to get into Bitcoin's baggage. Let's just really, really quickly get into the Bitcoin forever bull thesis. I'm not talking about early wave. I'm talking about forever. Until there is no more US dollar, by the way, a scenario we'll get into. Until there is no more US dollar, these people believe Bitcoin is going to go up forever. Yes, one day Bitcoin is going to hit $1 million. So what you can do before Bitcoin hits $1 million, you can go 50% BITK, 50% IBIT, and just keep reinvesting the dividends into that combination and retire off Bitcoin and get super rich, because the US debt is 37 trillion. They're going to have to keep printing money to expand the debt, and they're going to have to lower interest rates, so the interest rates on the debt are insane. It's just this ridiculous, and that's assuming there's no spending bill That's assuming, we don't do any of the stuff we do domestically. I'm pretty sure we just gave $20 billion to Argentina like last night. But anyway, let's just get really quick into the Bitcoin bull thesis. Central banks suck. Central banks suck. They all just destroy their fiat currency. Nixon closed the gold window in 1971, and it's all been downhill from there. We had an energy crisis, debt-based monetary expansion. Modern money is created as credit. When commercial banks issue loans, they simultaneously expand the money supply. So just by all this existing, we're going to have inflation, and even the Federal Reserve says they want 2 to 3% inflation. This creates a system that requires perpetual growth to sustain itself, a red queen dynamic: faster, run faster, print more, just to stay in place. So we have to print more money at a faster pace just to stay afloat. I think right now a third of the tax revenue goes to paying inflation on the debt, not even paying off the debt, paying off inflation on the debt. So this is a never-ending cycle, and we're going to drown in debt, essentially. And so we're going to see silver in the hundreds. We're going to see, First Majestic silver way up there in the 40s and 50s. And we're going to see these lease rates on silver and these silver shortage from the dealers. We're going to see all this, and people are going to start freaking out. Ideally, during this time, Bitcoin is going to be rallying significantly. So, what's going on post 2008 and post 2008 and post 2020? QE normalized massive balance sheet expansion. The system now depends on liquidity injections to avoid collapse, meaning every crisis results in more. Every crisis, that's interesting. Every crisis results in more currency debasement. A rational investor seeks an anti-fragile, non-inflationary, non-sovereign store of value. Enter Bitcoin. There's only 21 million Bitcoin. It goes through its halving every 4 years. And the final Bitcoin is going to be mined around 2140. This is an interesting, let's just say hypothetically the US dollar lasts 120 more years, which I highly doubt. We're not even done mining Bitcoin until 2140. So we're going to keep mining Bitcoin until 2140, and your grandkids are going to be fighting each other in the street over Satoshis. That's essentially the Bitcoin bull thesis, and that's if the dollar exists at all at this time. If the dollar doesn't exist at all, it's even worse. Proof of work as energy-backed finality. This is proof of work. Interesting. We're going to get into proof of work in a little bit. Bitcoin mining converts real-world energy into digital scarcity. Each block represents a thermodynamic cost. You can't fake proof of work without spending electricity. So this is kind of insane that Bitcoin really has all of its value because it's wasted so much electricity and it's killed the environment so much. We're basically like, hey, what are we going to do? Stop this? I mean, we've already wasted so much electricity. This creates a bridge between energy, the universal cost, and money. So we're basically saying Bitcoin has value because it took a ton of energy to mine. That's interesting. And money, the universal store of value. Censorship resistance, and this is interesting. I think we'll get into this in the next slide. No government, corporation, or consortium can arbitrarily freeze, reverse, or print Bitcoin. So you can print money, you can't print Bitcoin. The last Bitcoin was mined in 2140, and we're going to keep seeing the same Bitcoin cycle that we've seen for the past 10 years play out for the next 100 years. I mean, for that, what you thought you saw Bitcoin, go up for the last 10 years and that's the top? No, these bulls say you're wrong. Until 2140, we're going to keep mining Bitcoin and we're going to keep printing money. And so Bitcoin can be in the millions. Bitcoin can one day be in the billions for a Bitcoin. I mean, your children, your grandchildren, there was a guy who was telling people to buy $1 worth of Bitcoin in 2013. That would be worth $6,000 now. That's kind of insane. $1 to $6,000 just by buying $1 worth of Bitcoin. And what if I told you that rate going from $1 worth of Bitcoin to $6,000 worth of Bitcoin in roughly 12 years? What if I told you that was sustainable? What if I told you that was actually a matter of math and monetary fact? That's what these Bitcoin bulls believe. So if you buy into this, then you can go 50% IBIT, go 50% BITK, and you can stack as much IBIT as you can. Keep getting these premiums, live off the premiums, reinvest what's excess into more IBIT and BITK, and you can live off this. I mean, hallelujah. You can live off Bitcoin, not be worried about inflation. You're going to outperform inflation. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. You know, and so the fiat end game, the central banks are trapped. If they raise rates, the bond markets are going to implode. If they lower rates, they accelerate inflation. Bitcoin is a global settlement layer. Bitcoin is evolving beyond digital gold and is now base layer monetary protocol. Layered money architecture. The Bitcoin base layer is slow and immutable like gold in a vault. The Lightning Network and Layer 2 solutions enable instant, near-free global transactions using Bitcoin as collateral. This parallels the old gold standard system without using central banks. Emerging market adoption. Nations facing currency collapse like Argentina, Turkey, and Nigeria are already using Bitcoin as a parallel monetary rail. So basically, you look at what's going on in Argentina, Turkey, and Nigeria. These Bitcoin bulls are essentially saying one day that's coming to America. The silver bulls are already saying that they're worried about a new currency. And the Elliott wave is saying the inflation is going to get out of control. I mean, the real question for silver bulls and Bitcoin bulls is how long can you keep your silver and Bitcoin on paper? How long do you have before it's like, hey, even investing in IBIT wasn't enough? Why? Because IBIT is denominated in US dollars. So eventually, you're going to have to take your IBIT, convert it into Bitcoin, and hope there's no crazy difference between the price of IBIT and the price of Bitcoin spot on an exchange, hopefully, you know, a regulated one. I don't even know if you could use Coinbase in this scenario. I mean, realistically, we're going to get into some of the religious stuff. Okay, so Bitcoin's got this AI connection. This is really interesting for WorldCoin. So from AI hash rate, from Bitcoin hash rate to AI hash rate, Bitcoin mining infrastructure is identical in many respects to AI data center infrastructure. It's the same muscle, just flexed differently. It goes into all the reasons why, but it talks about Iris Energy, and it gives a good example of a stock that's exploded based on GPU expansion plans. Their goal is to run AI compute during peak hours and Bitcoin mining during off-peak hours to optimize the grid and profitability. So this idea that Bitcoin miners are going to be very integral in fulfilling America's AI goals. And we look at a couple of these Bitcoin miners that are making new highs. This is slightly unfortunate for Bitcoin because one of the big reasons I was pretty confident that Bitcoin is going to an extremely high price target in the long term was because of these Bitcoin miners. And so from a correlation standpoint, you know, it hurts a little bit to see these Bitcoin miners become AI stocks. I wanted to keep seeing them be Bitcoin stocks. But Riot, Marathon Patent Group, Clean Spark, at least for them, it's pretty good to know that they could be Bitcoin plays and they could be AI plays. If we look at the long-term bull market for both, it seems like they're going to coexist. And Iron is a great example of a company that's doing both. So just this connection to Bitcoin and AI that I wanted to get into your heads. You can read all of this if you like. So there's another thing you need to know about, and it's Microsoft. And this is kind of interesting. This is where Bitcoin bulls, I said it was almost binary. It was almost binary for Bitcoin bulls. If inflation is going to go up, which in the U.S. monetary system it always does, if inflation is going to go up, then Bitcoin is going to be uber bullish. So this is great. If Bitcoin was just called the inflation index and there was only 21 million of the inflation index, I'd be all in. And I'd also be all in if this didn't say cryptocurrency system using body activity data. I wish it said Bitcoin system using Bitcoin mining system using body activity data. So just for you to know, Microsoft has patented W2020060606, obviously the 666, and it says right here in black and white, human body activity associated with the task provided to a user may be used in a mining process of a cryptocurrency system. It goes into a little more detail how this would work. For example, a brainwave or body heat emitted from the user when the user performs the task provided by an information or service provider, such as viewing an advertisement or using certain internet services, can be used in the mining process. So basically, one way we could make Bitcoin more environmentally friendly, yes, you heard this right, is by hooking up your body to a cryptocurrency mining system. You heard that right. So it is possible, if we look down the road, it is possible to think about this Bitcoin flywheel playing out. And now all of a sudden everything is getting priced in Bitcoin instead of the US dollars. And how are we going to get our Bitcoin? What is work going to look like? What is payment going to look like? What is employment going to look like? What if I told you it was your body being hooked up to a cryptocurrency mining system? If you do things the system likes, which we can all just assume probably not things we want to do. If you do what the system likes, you're going to get your Bitcoin. If you don't do what the system likes, well, guess what? You are a node in the blockchain. Let's read this again. Instead of massive computation work required by some conventional cryptocurrency systems, data generated based on body activity of the user can be proof of work. So you can become a node in the blockchain, and your activities, showing up to work on time, doing your tasks, going home, and getting your jobs, these can all be things that are validators. All right, they're validators. They get you in the system. They get you more Satoshis. Yay. But if you say something bad on social media, if you make a YouTube video about the government, then what we could see is that you don't have your jabs. Then what we could see is you are an invalidator. You make the entire blockchain not work. You cut off the blockchain. The blockchain doesn't work now because of you. Well, guess what? You got to get out of the blockchain and you become an outcast of society. It's literally the Hindu caste system. And remember this guy, Bill Gates, he's the CEO of Microsoft, by the way, in Seattle. He was the CEO of Microsoft, based in Seattle, based in where the Space Needle is. The Space Needle, like the jabs. So there's this connection between jabs. If you get your jabs, you're a validator. You don't get your jabs, then you're an invalidator. All right, you're cut off. Your payment transaction will not go through. You will not be able to buy or sell, just like this is patent 060606, just like silver bulls are looking for the mark of the beast. So is Bitcoin, the mark of the beast? Before we get into where we're going, this is just to show you where we're going. All right, this is the future, fam. This is where we're going. You're going to be a node in the blockchain. This is what digital ID is all about. All right, you're not going to be able to get on an airplane. You're not going to be able to do any of the things you couldn't do during 2020 without your jabs and without being hooked up to the blockchain. I mean, this is what they've got in plan for you. And yeah, it's patent 060606. So we got to figure out, what is this cryptocurrency system? What is this cryptocurrency? That's what we got to figure out. One of my, most bullish, I'm not going to say it's my favorite, one of my most bullish, fundamentally, projections is WorldCoin. I mean, this is as demonic as it gets. prove your humanity by scanning your eyeballs with AI cameras for crypto. Yes, you heard that right. Sam Altman's WorldCoin becomes world and shows new iris scanning orb to prove your humanity. WorldCoin, the Sam Altman co-founder, founded Proof of Personhood crypto project, proving you're a person. And they're already doing this, and they're giving AirPods to people in third world countries for WorldCoin to earn WorldCoin, which they're now denying ever happened, by the way. But anyway, scan your eyeballs into an AI camera to prove you are a human and you're not an AI. And this has been done in the movies. The movie you are referring to is likely Blade Runner 2049, where replicants, which are advanced androids indistinguishable from humans, can be identified through a special eye scan. So a special eye scan can now prove whether or not you're an AI or you're a human. So you're going to need to use this technology to access your social media account. That's how we're going to get rid of bots. That's how we're going to get rid of bots. And you're also, I mean, if you thought having your temperature taken was invasive, you're going to have your eyeballs scanned. Now, you're going to have your eyeballs scanned. And this is how they're going to do these jab passports. I'm going to get a little further into the future. I don't think this is happening tomorrow, but eventually, so there's this connection between cryptocurrency and scanning your eyeballs to prove you're a human. There's a connection between cryptocurrency and the jabs. There's a connection between cryptocurrency and a company called Iris Energy. And there's a connection between cryptocurrency and AI. So what could be happening in the future is, let's just say this cryptocurrency that they're talking about in the Microsoft patent is Bitcoin. Let's just hypothetically say that. What we could see is a world where there's a supply shock for Bitcoin, just like there's a supply shock for silver. Price rises, institutional adoption increases, legitimacy grows, price rises further, it keeps compounding. I believe we've had our last halving, but we've got a fixed number of Bitcoin, and we've got an infinite amount of inflation. So eventually, you're going to have to earn your Bitcoin by being hooked up to the blockchain. You're going to be helping companies like Iris Energy mine Bitcoin by being a validator in the node of the blockchain. And you're going to have to scan your eyeballs to prove you're a human. This is just where we're heading. These are objective facts. This is not speculation about the future. None of this is speculation. None of this is, oh, I think that I know for a fact this is going to happen. You are going to have to scan your eyeballs with an AI camera to do anything, especially to use social media. If you post anything bad on social media, boom, you're out of the blockchain. You don't have your updated jabs, boom, you're out of the blockchain. You know, you're going to be helping Iris Energy mine Bitcoin while you're at work. I mean, you think this is a joke? This is where we're going. And these silver bulls think they figured it all out. These silver bulls think they figured it all out. And this one says, not so fast. This guy thinks we're in the book of Revelation. This guy says, not so fast. Unless you have taken the jab, unless you're getting your eyeballs scanned, unless you're getting your jabs, unless you've taken the mark, he says, unless you've taken the mark, your silver and your gold is going to be worthless to you, because even that's going to be tokenized. So this is where we're heading. All your assets are going to be tokenized. Your eyeballs are going to be scanned to prove you're a human, and you're going to need to get your jabs so that you can work. And while you're working, you're going to be helping your company mine Bitcoin this is even this isn't even while you're just working. This is while you're at home. You want you think you're going to pay for Netflix. You think Netflix gets too expensive, you go to the ad-free version. It's literally, they're going to be scanning your eyeballs to make sure you're actually watching the advertisement. And once you actually watch the advertisement, then you could get cryptocurrency for that. I mean, you talk about the iPad babies. They're literally making an economy of, you know, kids clicking stuff, kids viewing advertisements, kids going through modules. This is probably how your kids are going to graduate college. They're going to validate a blockchain and go through all their modules. And once they've validated all the modules, then they get a Satoshi that verifies they've graduated. And then there's no more diplomas. I mean, that's probably a real scenario that's going to happen. I just thought of that off the top of my head. But a little more into the future beyond that, beyond scanning eyeballs. And remember, this is all assuming that Bitcoin is that cryptocurrency. So there's a connection between Bitcoin and the virtual world. I posted my chart analysis of the Decentraland last night. But I mean, you think this is bad now? The housing crisis is bad now. It's not going to get any better. Real estate is going to become so expensive, and even it is going to have a supply shock, that we're going to be moving on to digital real estate. We're going to be moving on to virtual real estate in the metaverse. And if you think this is crazy, look at my chart of mana that I posted last night, because I'm telling you, mana is about to explode in the long term. That's one of my highest convictions. Like WorldCoin, it's about to explode in the long term, and they're having concerts in the metaverse. They're doing all this stuff. Look into the Decentraland, because, you know, the book Ready Player One that they had all the kids read, the book Ready Player One that they had all the kids read, is about this. It's about a world that's so bad outside, we basically live inside of a metaverse, and it's a giant video game. This Decentraland is very interesting. It's very interesting. Let's just say that. And Mark Zuckerberg very interested in having you live in the metaverse too. There's a connection between the metaverse and digital real estate. So could we have hyperinflation? You know, we're scanning eyeballs to prove humanity. We're nodes in the blockchain. We got to get our jabs to validate the blockchain. We got to say polite things on social media to validate the blockchain. We help Iris Energy mine Bitcoin and all this stuff. I mean, and even here, this is where we get the framework for these GPUs, these whatever GPUs. They're like the food for AI. I mean, we're going to be making AI food for the replicants, mining AI GPUs. Anyway, blockchain just so happens to solve all of the problems introduced in 2020. Isn't that interesting? Voting, all that mail-in ballot stuff. And no, you're gonna vote via the blockchain. Medical records. Did you get your jabs? You thought you were gonna have a paper passport. And you know, they figured that out a long time ago. All your jabs are gonna be on the blockchain. If you don't have your jabs, you're not using the currency. Straight up. Passports, same thing. Like this is jab passports, but this is also actual passports. I mean, you think using your real ID now at the airport is bad? Wait until you need your digital ID, and it needs all your medical records updated, and it needs all your social media account, and you get told you can't fly home because you posted something that was illegal in that country. This is all real, and it can't be done currently at a bank. If I go to a bank, I go to Chase Bank, and I go withdraw, it doesn't ask me if I've had my jabs. It doesn't ask me what I posted on social media. It doesn't ask me anything except for my PIN number. This is all about to be integrated. So if they find out, you know, Puppy Trades made a video that got removed from YouTube, I'm not going to be able to purchase. I'm not going to be able to use any Bitcoin. I'm not going to be able to use any Ripple. I'm not going to be able to probably even sell gold and silver. It's probably going to be illegal to have untokenized gold and silver. So inflation, the required reserves ratio was lowered to 0% in 2020. Bitcoin solves inflation. Dissenters, we had a lot of dissenters. They didn't want to take this jab. We figured that out because your social media account and your bank account are going to be tied to the blockchain. So now we're going to know you start posting stuff about the jabs and you know who and the whatever, you know, you're done. So you're not spending $1. You can't even walk into the grocery store. The second you walk into the grocery store and red lights, you just invalidated the blockchain, everyone's going to be staring at you, telling you to get the hell out so they can shop, just like you're literally in the Hindu caste system and you're an untouchable. This is already happening in China now with the social credit score looper. Go to China with your silver because he's from the future. Just something to think about. What does Satoshi Nakamoto mean in Japanese? Some people who are experts in the Japanese language, which I am not, says it mostly translates to center of intelligence. That's if they honestly say what does Satoshi Nakamoto mean, a person who speaks fluent Japanese will tell you it means center of intelligence. Okay, so I asked, what if Bitcoin's a Trojan horse? What if Bitcoin's not so good? What if Bitcoin's the mark of the beast? Said the devil never shows you the chains until you're already dancing. Bitcoin was presented as peer-to-peer freedom money, a rebellion against banks and governments. But to a tinfoil theorist, that's exactly how you get millions of voluntarily on board. Bitcoin was presented as peer-to-peer money, a rebellion against banks and governments, but to a tinfoil theorist, that's exactly how you get millions to voluntarily onboard the surveillance grid. Satoshi Nakamoto could have been an intelligence front, a psyop to popularize digital currency under the illusion of privacy. Once people got comfortable holding digital assets and trusting QR codes instead of cash, the psychological transition to state-backed digital currency, CBDCs, became easy. Bitcoin was the gateway drug, a Trojan horse to normalize programmable money. It's all in the patents, man. This is from an AI. I thought this was interesting. They'll start pulling receipts. Patent W0202060606 filed by Microsoft describes a cryptocurrency system using body activity data. That's right, digital currency rewarded through biometric monitoring in the number 060606. Not a coincidence. Remember the silver bulls saying you're going to have a tokenized silver, tokenized gold. You're still going to have to take the mark of the beast. The Bible says you're going to throw your silver and gold in the street because hoarding it was a worthless endeavor. Combine that with Neuralink implants, Neuralink and Elon Musk and, his AI connection and his Dogecoin connection. Interesting. Digital ID systems and passports. You've got the prototype for a biometric crypto economy. So they'll say Bitcoin was phase 1, decentralized money. CBDCs and biometrics are phase 2, centralized people. They'll shut off the grid, then turn it back on with rules. The theory continues. Once people depend on digital ledgers, all it takes is one cyber crisis, a staged solar flare, EMP, or banking hack. When the lights come back on, only verified wallets work under the One World blockchain tied to your ID and carbon footprint. Only the compliant will transact. Bitcoin was the prototype. The Beast coin is the final firmware update. So is Bitcoin a trick? The great tinfoil conclusion. Bitcoin was never freedom, it was bait. The real plan was to digitize all assets. I mean, that's interesting. Digitize all assets, just like what this said. Just like what this guy said. The digitization of all assets is going to be required to use your gold or silver. Otherwise, gold and silver will be extremely illegal. So having untokenized gold and silver is going to be like having hard drugs on you. You're going to get arrested or worse. So let's get back into the presentation. Was Bitcoin a beta test? Bitcoin equals the Revelation 13 beta test. The future Fed coin, or I like how it says World Coin, the Beast's final firmware update, and people cheerfully onboarded themselves to it because it promised freedom from banks, when in the eyes of the tinfoil prophets, it was the bank's final trap. So anyway, the $1 million question: Are your grandkids going to go to war over the last Satoshi in 2140 to buy Decentraland homes? In summary, the Bitcoin bulls believe that one day in 2140, we will all be fighting in the streets over the last Satoshi worth infinite US dollars. He said that's a great way to phrase it. And yeah, that image perfectly captures the mythic, apocalyptic edge of the ultra Bitcoin bull thesis. Let's separate the poetic exaggeration from the economic logic behind it, what 2140 moment actually is the year 2140 is when the last Bitcoin, the 21 millionth, is expected to be mined. After that, miners earn only transaction fees. That marks the end of new supply forever. So in Bitcoin theology, that's the day of absolute scarcity, no more minting, no inflation, total finality, the monetary equivalent of reaching the edge of the universe. Hypercoinization. Should you exit IBIT before hypercoinization? What this means in plain terms, this is the Bitcoin bull thesis, is that one day, we look at silver, you wonder how far in the future it is. You look at the signs of the book of Revelation being performed by elites, you wonder how far away that is. In plain terms, hypercoinization is the global spontaneous switch from fiat currencies to Bitcoin as the dominant unit of account. So IBIT being nominated in US dollars is not good. It's not good, okay? Because if the US dollar is the unit of account and that goes away, your IBIT's going to go away. So eventually, you're going to have to convert IBIT and BITK into Bitcoin on the actual blockchain in a wallet with your keys that you hold, okay? Bitcoin is going to become the dominant unit of account the moment when people price everything in sats instead of dollars. Economically, it's a monetary regime change driven by loss of faith in government money, increasing trust in Bitcoin's fixed supply and security, network effects that make Bitcoin the global settlement layer. So, puppy trades. This is basically the end of part 2. Puppy trades. You made it pretty clear. Bitcoin, if things keep going as is going to keep going up just based on the structure of the US dollar and the plans of the elites. We know Bitcoin is going to keep going up if everything stays the status quo. If everything stays the status quo and we don't find out about Bitcoin's baggage. So, this is the real thing that if you're trying to retire off Bitcoin and BITK, this is the real thing you need to understand. Bitcoin has a lot of baggage. All right, Bitcoin has a lot of baggage and it has a huge rival. Bitcoin's ISO compliant rival hates Bitcoin. BTC, I should say. What does BTC stand for? We'll get into that. Conspiracy circles call XRP the mark. It's in the tinfoil storyline. Crypto feature the bank partnerships. So your XRP is doing this all through the banks. It's not doing this without the banks like Bitcoin did. Now Bitcoin's becoming institutionalized. But when it started, Bitcoin was, not with the banks at all. XRP's been trying to do this through the banks since day one. XRP has a centralized validator list. They can freeze your wallet at any time, total control. So it'd be perfect for the mark of the beast. Compliance focus. They're wiring it into the surveillance grid. Talk of CBDC integration. So Ripple would be more likely than Bitcoin to be integrated with a CBDC. This will become the central bank digital currency. And it's Ripple, the beast rises from the sea. It's called Ripple, the water, the giant earthquake in the book of Revelation, the giant earthquake in the book of Matthew after Jesus dies. The book of Revelation is about the Antichrist. The Antichrist acts like Jesus when he dies, or there's a fatal head wound. There is a massive, massive, massive earthquake. So in that mythos, Bitcoin was beta test coin. Bitcoin was the open source prototype, and XRP is the production version for the global financial order, integrated with banks' ISO 2022 messaging and potentially government digital currencies. So Bitcoin's baggage, the Silk Road and the unspeakable. Bitcoin's blockchain is fully transparent and traceable. Every transaction is recorded permanently. Agencies like Chain Analysis, the FBI, and Europol use that data to identify and arrest criminals. In fact, Several child exploitation rings were caught precisely because they used Bitcoin and left a digital trail. So yes, some horrific crimes have touched Bitcoin, but the blockchain has often been the very thing that exposed and ended those crimes. So if you look into this idea that Satoshi Nakamoto means central intelligence, you also get an interesting idea. That Bitcoin may have been a Trojan horse to catch criminals during the Silk Road era, and that is something that we are going to continue to get into. Let's say, hypothetically, Bitcoin was used to traffic children and purchase adrenochrome on the dark web, and that Bitcoin was used by intelligence agencies like the FBI and the CIA to catch these criminals. If that were the case, Bitcoin has an awful lot of baggage. It's got an awful lot of baggage, and that's something that this XRP CEO is constantly mentioning. This XRP CEO is constantly mentioning Bitcoin's baggage. Brad hates Bitcoin. Garlinghouse's point is that Bitcoin did something similar with money to Napster. It showed that you could move value globally, peer to peer, without banks. It didn't ask permission from regulators or institutions. It became a proof of concept for decentralized money, but not something governments would ever approve for mainstream banking use, unlike XRP. He's not saying Bitcoin is bad. He's saying it broke the mold without playing by the rules, just like Napster. That's the AI's opinion. The Spotify analogy ripples the compliance play. Would you rather invest in Napster or Spotify? I mean, that's a pretty easy question to answer. What Spotify did, Spotify came in years later and said, let's do this all legitimately like Ripple. Let's license the music properly. Let's work with record labels and regulators. Let's make the experience smoother and legal. Spotify succeeded commercially because it built on Napster's innovation, but within the law. Ripple's approach. Garlinghouse sees Ripple and XRP as doing the same in finance, building compliant rails like RippleNet and on-demand liquidity, targeting the banking system, not trying to replace it. And Ripple CEO says 1% of digital assets solve real-world problems, while 99% go to zero. So he didn't mention Bitcoin specifically, but he believes 99% of digital assets are going to zero, and that only the ones that solve real-world problems are going to succeed. That's a pretty interesting thing to say, because when people talk about where XRP could go and how it could go up into the thousands and the 10,000 range, a lot of people say that there's going to be this regulatory shift where the money flows from Bitcoin to XRP because of this regulation. Now, let's get into Bitcoin's baggage a little more and talk about how much we need to worry about this. Let's talk about how much, because I really personally want to invest in IBIT and BITK, retire off Bitcoin, collect the massive premiums and all this. I really want to do it and get rich. And I honestly think in the long term it's going to work, but there's baggage we need to know about. This is a picture, undoctored, of Joe Biden clearly wearing a mask. You can see with his own eyes. You can see with your own eyes, Joe Biden is clearly wearing a mask. He has this square around his ear, and it's very obvious that Biden is wearing a mask in this picture. All right, so we're just going to look at this for a little bit. Donald Trump said, got to do something about these missing children grabbed by the perverts, too many incidents, fast trial, death penalty. We look at Donald Trump. He tweeted this in 2012. So he tweets this in 2012, and we look at that's around the time that Bitcoin is really, really gaining popularity, and this is during the Silk Road era. If we look really closely at what he said, he didn't say children. He said Chid Loren. We got to do something about these missing Chid Loren. We'll get into what Chid Loren is in the next slide. But this guy has an idea. He says when the blood is harvested quickly by puncturing the skull with a hypodermic needle right in the center of their forehead where the pineal gland is located. Younger children are preferred because their pineal glands are only minimally calcified. So how much baggage does Bitcoin have? We've got to do something about these missing Chid Loren. And this is a post about adrenochrome, and it's talking about how it is easier to get adrenochrome from younger children that have been tortured because their pineal glands are minimally calcified. That's a little interesting. So Donald Trump, during the height of the Silk Road era, is saying we need to find this Chid Loren. We need to find this Chid Loren. Chid Loren is a type of adrenochrome. So Chid Loren adrenochrome was available on Alibaba. So Chid Loren adrenochrome was available on Alibaba, and that's why he's saying that we've got too much missing Chid Loren. He's not talking about missing children. He is talking about missing children, but he's also talking about missing adrenochrome. So he said we've got to do something about these perverts. Too many incidents, fast trial, death penalty. That was 2012. Now we fast forward to present day. And Trump is saying Biden was executed and replaced with clones. The Truth Social post claims Biden was replaced with soulless, mindless entities. There is no Joe Biden. This picture was taken shortly after his election. There is no Joe Biden. He was executed in 2020, the Post says. Biden clones, doubles, and robotic engineered, soulless, mindless entities are what you see. Democrats don't know the difference, it adds, before listing a litany of hashtags. So what's going on here? Donald Trump is saying Joe Biden is a clone. He was executed and replaced with a body double. And he said about 13, 14 years before that, he said we got to do something about the missing adrenochrome. There's too much missing Chid Loren. And we know Chid Loren is harvested by torturing and doing awful things to young children and then sticking a needle into their pineal gland, which is minimally calcified. Interesting, the pineal gland and the reference it has to waking up. So when we look at the Matrix movie, they're talking about following the white rabbit and taking the red pill to wake up. So you've been told your whole life, if you want to wake up, you need to follow the white rabbit and you need to take the red pill. This is because if you want to wake up to what's going on, the white rabbit is adrenochrome. This is the molecular structure of adrenochrome. You can see it looks like a white rabbit. These are the legs. These are the ears, the bunny ears. Very clear. So Morpheus says you want to take the red pill. You want to follow the white rabbit and you'll wake up. You'll wake up to what's going on. You'll start seeing why Trump is saying Biden was executed. There's too many missing Chid Loren. We need to do something about the perverts. Fast trial and death penalty. Fast trial and death penalty. Very interesting. Follow the white rabbit. Speaking of that, I would say the biggest storyline of this year, probably in the media, besides the immigration, it has been this guy. I don't even know if I can say his name. Epstein. You've heard of this guy. Well, there's this big group of people that said Epstein didn't unalive himself. There's this big group of people that says Epstein didn't unalive himself. So he's arrested late in the 2010s. He doesn't unalive himself, and he goes into witness protection. All right, or let's say he did. Let's say he did get the death penalty. So let's say he's in witness protection and he actually didn't hurt himself. Okay, then we would have a situation where Epstein's arrested in late 2020, in the late 2010s. Epstein is arrested, and what happens right after that? Right after that, all of a sudden we shut down the government, and then we shut down the whole world. And all the politicians have to wear masks. All the politicians have to stay home. Why are all the politicians wearing masks and telling people to stay home, especially on the liberal side? Why are they wearing masks and telling people to stay home? Because we see Biden, he's not just wearing a black mask, he's wearing a hypothermic skin mask. So why are we being told to stay home and all this stuff? Allegedly, it's because people like Joe Biden were going through military tribunals. Donald Trump says he was executed, just like he said he wanted the death penalty for people who took Chidlerin. Are you waking up? The storm is coming. Trump openly embracing blank anon conspiracy theories. So we've had a few storms hit, and a few of these storms have hit interesting places. Historic Biltmore estate shutters after floods from Hurricane Helene ravaged by Asheville. The entrance to the Biltmore and other low-lying areas such as the farm experienced significant wind, flooding, and building damage, the estate announced. So I asked the internet, did the Vanderbilts perform satanic rituals in Biltmore? The estate is known for hidden passageways and claims of ties to seedy underground satanic rituals. So there was a giant flood at this really famous estate that's known for hidden passageways and underground satanic rituals. Well, that's interesting, because if you flooded out the tunnels underground with a hurricane, you would have all the evidence you needed to say that this was going on down there. And you would end that operation going on down there. The secret passages of Biltmore Mansion. The estate also boasts one underground tunnel in Antler Hill Village that used to be part of the Biltmore Dairy Barn. The satanic side of Asheville, North Carolina. In 1982, a Luciferian ritual involving hierarchy children was conducted over 3 days at the Biltmore estate in Asheville. 5 boys between the ages of 12 and 16 were forced to participate, one of them being Elon Musk? That can't be right. That's got to be ridiculous. The storm is coming. Trump openly embraces conspiracy theories. So we have Asheville get flooded out, and there's underground passages under Asheville that are linked to satanic trafficking of children and rituals and all this. Kerrville, Texas, that had an interesting flood. The water rose 30 feet in 30 minutes or something like that, something ridiculous. In this place, the Kerrville flooding, Houston area girls among missing Camp Mystic attendees. So again, we have this kind of crazy, strange flood, and it's involving young children missing. We got to find these missing children. Donald Trump says he wants to find all the missing children. He says a storm's coming. He wants to execute people who took Chidlerin, and that Joe Biden was one of those people. And now a storm's coming, and all these places that are connected to missing children, are being flooded out. In addition to the total wipeout of the Biltmore estate in Asheville, in addition to the total Biltmore, the total wipeout of the Biltmore estate in Asheville, the village owned by the Vanderbilts family was flooded out also. As it turns out, the sick art below was owned by none other than Tony Podesta, proud member of the Red Shoe Club and brother to Perv and Pizzagate player John Podesta. The Vanderbilt family, particularly Gloria, the mother, were known practitioners of black magic and members of the occult. Gloria's oldest son committed suicide at age 23. So anyway, the whole point of all that was we got floods, Donald Trump is saying the storm is coming, the storm is coming. Hurricane Milton floods Disney World, the Biltmore Estate. Disney World known for missing children, and it's a known fact they have underground tunnels. The Biltmore Estate in Asheville flooded by Hurricane Helene. It's a known fact they did satanic rituals with children in underground tunnels. That's what the storm is coming means. That's why he's always referring to the storm. So in 2025, in April, I believe this was April, Galactic Federation craft were seen. There were UFOs over Istanbul, Turkey, before the 6.2 earthquake. So there was a 6.2 magnitude earthquake, and there were UFOs above the earthquake in Istanbul, Turkey. So we're going to get into Seattle and San Francisco. This idea, Bitcoin was used to traffic children, and this idea that Bitcoin was the mark of the beast, it was used to traffic children, and it was a Trojan horse for the CIA and the FBI to catch, as Donald Trump said, missing children grabbed by the perverts. Epstein is unalived, and then the government is shut down, and then the world is shut down, and all the liberals are saying stay at home and wear a mask, almost like they're under house arrest, and they're being replaced with body doubles wearing a mask like liberal Joe Biden. So anyway, where am I going with all this? Hurricane Milton floods out the tunnel under Disney. Hurricane Helene floods out the tunnels under Asheville, North Carolina. Kerrville floods out the little girls' camp in Texas. Where is all this going? This is the Southeast. There are also tunnels in San Francisco, Seattle, probably Portland, and Los Angeles. So we're going to get into the Seattle and San Francisco decode. Marshawn Lynch causes the beast quake against the Saints. The Saints known for flooding and winning a Super Bowl after Hurricane Katrina. Taylor Swift, like ISO compliance and the Swift financial system, causes an earthquake in Seattle. The Emerald City has the Space Needle. Starbucks, we'll get into the aliens, but the Space Needle, the Starbucks, like Stellar Lumens and Ripple. Starbucks, like Seattle's the Emerald City. The US dollar is emerald. There's going to be no more emerald US dollar. We're going to use Starbucks, aka Stellar Lumens and Ripple. So the Emerald City has the Space Needle, the death of the dollar. First case of CV-19 was in Seattle. Microsoft and Bill Gates. The needle, the Space Needle, the jab, like the CV, what it stands for. You know what CV stands for? It means crown, corona, like the sun, like the ring of fire is named after the sun, which many people say solar flares and solar radiation is connected to EQs. Anyway, Taylor Swift, like the Swift financial system, is stalked by David Crow of Seattle. The old Crow is a Wizard of Oz character. Taylor is Dorothy, and they are not in Kansas anymore. Her husband plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Emerald City, the dollar, is destroyed by a liquidity flood. Ripple, Planet X, Nibiru. So if I haven't said this yet and connected it to the Turkey earthquake and the UFOs, what they're going to do, they're going to say there's a planet that's approaching the Earth, and it's by the sun. That's why the government has to spray chemtrails. There's a planet that's approaching the Earth. It's by the sun. The gravity from the planet is causing problems with airplanes, like Leave the World Behind, like Boeing means big one, and it's also causing earthquakes and crazy weather, historic hurricanes, things of that nature. So it's got the Cascadia subduction zone, the Portland volcano underground. The National Guard is in Portland. Soon, San Francisco and Seattle will probably be next. So for San Francisco, it's the Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge, like we're seeing gold and silver run away. We're going to keep seeing them run away. The Golden Gate Bridge currency. Ripple is known as, Ripple like the water, is known as the bridge currency because it connects all the foreign exchange. So the Golden Gate Bridge is destroyed, represents how gold and Ripple, that liquidity flood, is going to destroy the dollar. So Seattle and San Francisco, they've got underground satanic trafficking tunnels just like the Biltmore estate. Just like the Biltmore estate, they're going to be flooded out with weather weapons. They're going to be flooded out with weather weapons. And they're going to use a mega earthquake in Seattle and a mega earthquake in San Francisco, probably Portland too, which is why the National Guard is there right now, to cause a tsunami. The tsunami is going to flood out the underground trafficking tunnels. Boeing is the big one. Leave the world behind has airplanes, obviously. Flooding out underground trafficking centers, destroying the liberal opposition. Interesting to think about. This guy had an interesting post after the flash crash. Not sure if he's referring to Ripple, but he said if you want to make back every dollar you just lost in the last 24 hours, pay close attention to every word below. The Pentagon summoned military officials from around the world in a gathering in Virginia. Nobody was informed for the reason of the meeting. The real reason for this meeting is about a series of megaquakes and tsunamis that will impact the world in the near future. Global death toll will be 20 million within 48 hours post-event, hence the necessity for coordination pre-event. So they cannot risk this spreading like wildfire pre-event. They must collaboratively keep it under wraps. If they did, there would be economic and societal failures due to mass panic. We didn't have certainty until the end. We prioritize orderly response over panic, plausible deniability, unprecedented, impossible event to predict. They're going to use weather weapons, obviously, and just detonate this. We thought it would be smaller. The religious angle, it was angle. It was an act of God, right? Martial law will be enacted upon the population to keep the peace, aka keep the control. So what's this guy saying? This guy is saying if you want to make back every dollar you just lost, he's talking to people who lost everything in the liquidity sweep, the liquidity like the tsunami. If you want to make back everything you lost, you can get really rich from mega earthquakes. He says, how the F do you plan to profit from the event? That's the one question that remains. He says there's going to be this mega earthquake, and how do you plan to profit from the event? How do you plan to profit from 20 million people dying in the megaquakes? He says that's the real reason they had these military leaders. That's the real reason we got the National Guard in Portland. So anyway, we had the megaquake in Russia, 8.8 magnitude. It was the fifth largest earthquake ever. We had two 7+7s in the Philippines in a matter of a week. So the Ring of Fire is heating up. We'll get into some more just quick decodes. Sean C. Kelly, FEMA has been terminated. Sean C. Kelly matches with earthquake. Obviously, it's FEMA. Like FEMA has 10 districts, and they have provisions for the districts to become states. So they have the provisions for state lines to be removed in the event of a multi-state natural disaster. They have the provisions for state lines to be removed, and us to all live in districts and also in camps. Sean C. Kelly equals earthquake in 7 ciphers of gematria. Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, equals human trafficking in 7 ciphers or 8 ciphers of gematria. Taylor Swift, her album cover recently, she caused the earthquake in Seattle. She's stalked by David Crow of Seattle. David Crow, like the old Crow in The Wizard of Oz. She's not in Kansas anymore, like the Wizard of Oz. The Emerald City is destroyed after you follow the Yellow Brick Road. The Yellow Brick Road is the Golden Gate Bridge. They're referring to a string of earthquakes down the Pacific Coast fault lines. She's in an emerald bathtub like the Emerald City, and she's drowning. She's drowning. And yeah, so she's drowning. Wade Ripple and Ember Lumen were characters from the 2023 Pixar film Elemental. So Wade is the water element, like Ripple's the water. I mean, his name is Ripple. He's the water element. They're literally trying to tell your kids or program your kids, depending on how you look at it, for Ripple and Stellar Lumen. So the planet that's approaching is called Planet X, Planet Nibiru. XRP and XLM are ISO 2022 20022 compliant coins, and many people think it's not Bitcoin. Bitcoin was beta test coin. It's actually XRP and XLM that are the mark of the beast. RFK Jr. is warning now against digital ID and CBDCs. He's also got a connection to the jabs. Again, we see connections between the jabs and the CBDCs. So basically, if you're a Bitcoin bull, you want to retire, you got to hedge with Ripple, you got to hedge with XRP. So we're going to go into a few ways to retire off Bitcoin. I think 50% BITK, 25% IBIT, and 25% of Ripple ETF would be an adequate hedge for if Bitcoin crashed and all the liquidity went into Ripple. And I honestly think that would do pretty well. Each of these companies are either e-cash companies or they're metaverse companies. Coinbase, XYZ, Block, the dumbest name change ever. Meta, the second dumbest name change ever. PayPal and Roblox. I picked these because these are very similar to gold and silver, in my opinion. No matter what the next currency is, whether it's Ripple, whether it's XLM, whether it's Bitcoin, it's going to be integrated with Coinbase. It's going to be integrated with PayPal and Block, and it's going to be integrated with Meta and Roblox. I'm a big fan of Roblox. RBLY from YieldMax is a great pick. Coinbase has covered call ETFs and cash secured put ETFs for leverage. Covered call ETFs also exist for Meta, Block, and PayPal. So I like this as kind of a crypto economy basket to get dividends. The required reserves ratio is 0. That means there's infinite monetary expansion until these black swan earthquakes, or until the dollar is dead for good. We're talking about bank runs. We're talking about silver being in the several hundreds of dollars. So The Simpsons had an episode where Bart mints himself as an NFT that's worth $1.5 million. Again, this integration between the human soul and the blockchain. I think that these ETFs, SSK and ESK, staking Solana and Ethereum from Rex is a really interesting long-term dividend growth opportunity if someone believes in Solana, Ethereum. Could Solana, Ethereum, and Ripple all work together? I made this kind of portfolio right here. Equal weight YETH for Ethereum, equal weight BITK for Bitcoin, equal weight this Blocks fund. This Blocks fund owns all of the blockchain companies, very similar to this slide. Whichever currency it is going to be used by these blockchain companies in BLOX. So this is very interesting. And then if someone was really worried about everything going to zero, OUNZ is a deliverable gold ETF. The likely future, honestly, if there was a weapon to my head, I'd be hedging Bitcoin with Ripple. But honestly, instead of outlawing Bitcoin or Litecoin, here's what's more likely to happen than the flip being switched. ISO 20022 networks like XRP or Stellar integrate with central bank payment rails for regulated high-speed global settlement, while Bitcoin and Litecoin remain free market stores of value and peer-to-peer payment rails outside traditional banking. We'd have two parallel rails, the ISO 20022 world, institutional, trackable, KYC compliant money, decentralized crypto world, sovereign, censorship resistant value layer. So maybe they'll all coexist. Maybe the flip's going to be switched and all the money's going to go to Ripple. We know one thing, man. The silver market is getting religious. I think the crypto market's about to get religious next.